You're watching The Poet and the Colonel with hosts Beverly Reed Scott and Colonel Eugene Scott. Stay tuned. Hi, I'm Beverly Reed Scott, and you are now in the Soul Garden with Beverly and Friends. You know, we talked last episode about March, the spiritual gift for March being strength, and we're going to continue that theme, but in a slightly different way. The book that we're reading is The Defender, How the Legendary Black Newspaper Changed America, from the Pullman Porters to President Obama. And so it is fitting, I think, that we talk about former President Barack Obama's experience in Chicago and on the Mid-South side of Chicago, also known as Bronzeville. I wanted to share with you some unseen footage with the president and talk to my guest, who has a unique perspective about the president's meteoric rise to the highest office in the land, which is documented in this book, The Defender by Eitan Michaeli. So my guest today is Colonel Eugene F. Scott, who also happens to be my husband, and we worked together for about 13 years at the Chicago Defender newspaper and then at the Chicago Defender Charities, home of the world-famous Bud Billiken Parade. So, hi, Colonel Scott.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for being on my show. Thank you. So we have some footage that we're going to show you guys, and then when we come back from the break, we'll talk about this significant experience in then State Senator Barack Obama's career that easily could have made him or broke him, and the role that the Defender played in helping to make him. We'll be right back.
You know, I don't know. I had lunch with this guy today, and he has, I guess what you would say, a stellar background. You know what I mean? He's Harvard educated and you know, teaches law, constitutional law at the University of Chicago, and you know, he's articulate and handsome and all these different things, and so I wondered, you know, I had the pleasure of learning some things from him when I attended organizing school at the Hope Institute, where Dr. Sakoni Karanja had founded this school to give people an opportunity to learn a hands-on process of organizing to affect change in their own communities. And this gentleman was co-founder of this particular institute, and I remember him teaching me about things like discovering what a person's self-interest is and how you do that, and going door to door. And you know, he went on to become state senator, and has currently announced that he is going to run, is that the 1st Congressional District?
Yeah.
For congressman in the 1st Congressional District. I wonder, because I'm sure with the kind of background that he has, he could make all kind of money in law. I'm sure of that, you know, but he chooses to do the work. And those of you that are activists and organized, you know what the work is. And so I think that it's a great privilege to offer the Community Service Award to State Senator Barack Obama.
Well, I must say I didn't come expecting an award. I thought I was actually just going to give some words of encouragement to all of you, and especially the young people, because I think that the kind of program that this represents in terms of the School of Film, getting people into positive activities is exactly what we talk about down in Springfield. I know that the State's Attorney's Office has been working with us down in Springfield to try to get more money for prevention and intervention services that put people in positive activities. And so I'm just happy to see all the young people here today, especially these young brothers here standing so serious and erect. That's impressive to me, because I think what it indicates is that we've got a lot of hope for the future. And one of the things that I'm looking forward to doing, and I know that many of the elders who are here today, who are role models for a lot of these young people, especially the young men, hope as well, is that we can start expanding and creating more resources for young people to have access. If we have a school of film in this area, then we should have a studio, and we should be able to produce movies, and we should be able to market films and highlight all the talent that we have available throughout our areas, and in fact start some commercial enterprises that tap into some of the wonderful talent that already exists. And so I'm hopeful that this is just the beginning, that this isn't just the culmination of a process, but in fact we're just starting off, and we're going to be moving forward in the future. So I thank you very much for it, but I also applaud you for the wonderful work that you do.
And we're back. Again, the book that we are discussing is The Defender, How the Legendary Black Newspaper Changed America from the age of the Pullman Porters to the age of Obama. And who better for us to discuss this with than Colonel Scott, who joined the Synstack Enterprises in 1991 and worked as executive assistant to the late, great John H.H. Synstack, and maintained his relationship with the family throughout his career in public service here in Chicago. So he was the executive assistant, became the general manager, and ultimately the publisher of the Chicago Daily Defender, which is a whole different animal from the current Defender. So, Colonel Scott, thank you again for being on the show. And that clip that I showed at the historic Quinn Chapel really kind of sums up this missing link about the president's experience in Chicago. And so I would hope you would share a part of that with us.
You know, as I recall, and I think I came in that event and saw you speaking, the greatest challenge for then State Senator Barack Obama in this New York rise that he had was to galvanize the black community behind him. Mm-hmm. That was the challenge. So many of the things that the Defender and you personally were involved in were an effort to make him more relatable and acceptable to the black community. And that was a long, arduous effort, because as you recall, he wasn't really looked at as one of the black community members initially. He was looking sort of as an outsider. You know, the tight-knit Bobby Rush group,
Harold Lucas, Ron Carter,
and many, many others.
Yeah, Zipster Strong.
Yeah, we can name people whoever didn't really accept outsiders, and Barack was definitely an outsider.
And with good reason, because the people that I just mentioned had been doing the work in the trenches for the Bronzeville community for years, and had a fierce loyalty to the residents of that community and also to the actual structure of the community, because there are so many landmarks and such in that area, the Bronzeville area. And so, as you said, Colonel Scott, on that footage, what's classic about that is the president was running against Bobby Rush. at that time that that clip is taking. So if he looks a little uncomfortable being there, it's because he didn't know that he was getting an award. And I, at the time, was a reporter and columnist at the Defender who had already made up my mind, spiritually speaking, about Barack's destiny. I call it premonition. So I was led to put him in places where he was uncomfortable going. But in order for him to get where he was ultimately going, he had to kind of jump this hurdle, right?
Certainly, he had to become a member of the inner sanctum of the black community in Chicago.
And choosing to run for Congress was not exactly a warm and fuzzy feeling
No.
for many of the people that we're talking about, because Bobby Rush had been congressman. He was a Black Panther. He had that on lock.
Yeah, he was a stalwart of the community. You got to keep in mind, Black Chicago has put together a very elaborate elected official fiefdom where we had U.S. senators, we had black mayors, we had other elected
Black
congressmen. You know, all of these people helped build this ladder to lift Barack to the presidency. So we weren't too, when I say we, the community wasn't too sure about that being dismantled by this outsider. Like, you know, he really wasn't that successful against Bobby Rush. And I think Bobby beat him like maybe 60 to 30% of the vote or something like that.
It was a painful loss.
Yeah.
The thing that we did at the Defender that remains valuable is when he came in for his editorial board meeting, instead of writing a story about it, I decided to put it in categories: how he stood on housing, how he stood on criminal justice, and then use his words. And I've noticed over his career that people have referred back to that to say what his different positions were on many issues. The Defender was a tremendous tool to help to galvanize that community support for State Senator Barack Obama at the time. Once he had that trial by fire, once Congressman Bobby Rush beat him so handily, while it was a bruise to the ego, I think that it kind of endeared the community a little bit. So he got his whipping because I think people understood his value, but just felt that where he was trying to go wasn't the right path for him. And so it's like correcting a child, you know, you get that spanking and then you go sit over here. And so if that hadn't have occurred, if Bobby Rush had not beat Barack in that race, he may never have become president of the United States because he would have been the congressman, you know, and that's a whole different energy. Congressmen tend to be congressmen throughout their whole political career.
Well, the move to presidency is certainly a lot easier to do from U.S. Senator and galvanize the whole state than from a congressional district in Black Chicago.
Right.
That's a pretty big leap
Right.
in order to galvanize state and national support. So I think what President Obama got out of that was he became a little more humble. he recognized this is a tough fight that I've got here.
Chicago is no joke,
it's no joke.
particularly in
And
Rossville.
maybe there's an easier route to my ambitions, because personally, I don't think he ever would have beat Bobby Rush, Danny Davis, and other stalwart black congressional people in Chicago. I just don't think it could be done.
Probably not, but I would like to correct that, to say, as opposed to find an easier way, I would say it was to find his authentic path for his destiny.
And
That's how I perceived it. It's an amazing thing to be married to a colonel when you're as ethereal
yeah.
as I am, that listen to messages from the birds and all that, so, but it's a beautiful thing because he keeps me balanced and I give him wings. So on the issue of Barack, I had taken a class in community organizing back in like 93 or 94. That was with Dr. Sakoni Karanja down there on 42nd and King Drive. And as part of that class, we got a different instructor each week. It was like a 6-week class. So when we got to the session on community organizing, he wasn't even a state senator. Then he was just Barack Obama. And he was the instructor for that class. And I ran in late as usual and looked up and had one of the most profound premonitions that I have had. And I have premonitions and, a deep intuition. So, but I knew then that there was something profound about whoever he was, because I didn't even know who he was. But later on, we fast forward to, I'm now a reporter and columnist at the Defender. It becomes more clear that the destiny that he has is in politics. I worked on all the campaigns and all that stuff. Just a quiet thing to just feel to be in support of whatever he was doing, because I'm a dutiful daughter and I do as I'm guided and directed, and I pay attention to the signs. So I was led not knowing what this was about, because even initially with the state senator thing and the thing with Alice Palmer was another getting off to an awkward start in terms of trying to build relationships.
You called it from the very beginning, because I was very skeptical. In fact, when we had the editorial board with Bobby Rush and him, I just, and you can look at the photo, I just kind of listened, but I'm like, he can't beat Bobby Rush.
Yeah.
Not in his present form, because he's just not going to be accepted by the black community. And you did a lot of layman work to help get him to be more acceptable to the black community. And then the stars aligned themselves. He ran for U.S. Senator, and he ran against a person that eventually had some type of controversy and scandal, and a lot of things seemed to come together.
Because it was divine order for him to be the president of the United States. And when everything became so effortless for him. Yes, it was hard work and all that, but the doors opened up, and Gina and I were in a position to be able to help him on a national level because of the Bud Billiken Parade.
Right, and I'll accept your divine order.
Yeah,
but
isn't that nice of him?
But the parade and the newspaper made a significant contribution, because what needed to happen. And the parade had the pulse of the black community, the newspaper had the pulse of the black community, and they were in total support of him.
Yes, Grand Marshal.
The Grand Marshal, you were instrumental in help making him be the Grand Marshal for 2 or 3 different occasions before the election. And when I saw him at that last parade, and the number of people that were following him.
It was like a sea of blue signs, and he and Danny Davis and I think First Lady and Danny's wife were right there leading the front of that sea of blue signs saying Obama. And then, so Aton in his book, he writes about that opening, and so you remember when he was, they put Alan Keyes in place of the senator who had to leave because of his scandal. In Aton's book, he tells of one woman that ran out, because in those days you could run up to the units in the parade. We have barricades now, but then you could just run all out and people be running out hugging and stuff. Well, she ran out with her little sign and hitting the car and telling, "No, Obama for president," and which is really probably wasn't running for president,
right?
But she let Alan Keyes know whatever it wasn't him. So he slunk back down in his car, and the story continues.
So the same forces, I like history. So the same forces of that Bronzeville Black Chicago that put the first black congressman in office, Oscar DePriest, that same group that put the strongest black congressman, Bill Dawson, in place, that same black group that put the first black female senator in place, put the first black president in place.
And don't forget the first black mayor.
And the first black mayor for the city of Chicago.
There's
just an awesomeness about the political power of black Chicago.
I want to say the political power, and I also want to say the activism. We're very powerful, and we had Jesse Jackson and Louis Farrakhan based here in Chicago. And so we're going to pause for a commercial break, and when we get back, I'm going to tell you a secret. Be right back.
If you're anything like my family, then you love to play basketball. It's an amazing sport. There's running. There's jumping. There's even dancing. Most importantly, playing basketball for just 1 hour a day is a great way to get fit. So get on out there, shoot some hoops, and most of all, have some fun.
We're back. Colonel Scott, I'm going to keep this going, and I'm actually going to talk to him about maybe becoming my co-host, because I think we make a really great team, So we'll see. We'll talk about it. But, Colonel, the thing with the Republican parade and President Obama, because, when somebody's star is that bright and it takes off that fast, you kind of expect that you're never going to hear from those people again. They're gone. They belong now to the world, and you're just grateful for the little role that you could play. But the thing that I feel sets the president apart is that he never forgot about us, South Side. He never forgot about the South Side of Chicago. He never forgot about Colonel Scott. He made sure that he sent somebody from the White House to represent him as Grand Marshal every year that he held the office of President of the United States. There is no organization or anybody that can claim the same. We alone hold that honor of having brought someone from the White House to King Drive for the Bud Billiken Parade and Picnic. In addition, I've had the good fortune with Sabina Foster over at FedEx, who helped us. We took 30 people up to the White House. We had about 21 young people that did a roundtable discussion. They toured everywhere. They saw the office of the First Lady, the West Wing. They sat and talked about their issues with some leadership from the Office of Public Engagement. And all of these things were made possible because of the premonition that I had and my willingness to put myself out there on behalf of someone that I barely knew. But I follow the signs and I go where I'm guided and directed. So I'm really grateful to have been a part of this history. But the thing that I don't know if you all remember, but one year, and I think this is what endeared Colonel Scott and President Obama, the year that Stella had the she said Barack was coming to the parade, to lead the parade, and then he wasn't, and then the media went crazy, and then the Tribune called Colonel, and they said they were trying to get him to say something negative about Barack, and they were like, so how do you feel? He said he was coming, now he's not coming and stuff. And Colonel, like a true colonel, said, he's the President of the United States. He's my boss. Whatever he says is what it is. And so on that note, you know, I want you to take a look at this closing video where President Barack Obama gives a direct address to Colonel Eugene Scott. And stay tuned for the video. We'll see you next time. This is Beverly, and you are in the Soul Garden with Beverly and Friends.
Hello, Southside. I wish I could be there with you today. I just want to take a moment to thank Colonel Scott and the Chicago Defender Charities, not only for putting on this incredible parade, but also for the work you do every day to support all our kids. Right now, that's as important as ever, because even as we come together for this parade, we know there have been too many mindless acts of violence in our communities. We grieve for the children who've been taken from us. Too much promise has been lost. Too many hearts have been broken. In their memory, let us resolve, and I mean all of us, law enforcement, educators, clergy, parents, and especially young people, to redouble our efforts to fight this epidemic of violence. All of us who care about our kids and their future have a responsibility to step up, to foster strong and safe communities, to be good role models, to give our children a deeper appreciation for the values of their own lives and the lives of others. Through the power of our example, we have to instill an impulse in our young men and women to choose to resolve disputes in a way other than violence. We have to provide stronger role models than the gangbanger around the corner. All of us have to make safer streets our cause, so that the most challenging part of a kid's day is that algebra test or physics exam and not the walk home from school. Because I want all our kids to have the same chance I had, to grow up believing that in America, no matter what you look like or what neighborhood you come from, with hard work, you can make it. I hope everyone enjoys the parade. And Michelle and I remember watching those drill teams and marching bands show off their skills. Tomorrow, let's commit ourselves to marching into our communities and our classrooms, determined to make a difference. God bless you. God bless America.
I am with him, Senator Barack Obama. I see the Obama signs everywhere I look.
Well, I tell you what, there's a wonderful parade. I've got to make sure to say hello to my daughters, Malia and Sasha, who are with their uncle right now. This is a great event, beautiful day. Just want to remind all the young people, get their heads ready mentally for school, because that's what this is all about, going back to school, making sure we're taking care of business.
Where in the world did all these Obama signs come from?
I tell you what, we did pretty good on signage today, but we've just had wonderful support. This is obviously my home area right here. It's nice to come back to the South Side.